to my show. It's your girl, Amara, La Negra, and you're listening to Exactly Amara, a production of iHeart. And I want to thank you guys as usual because, mira, it happens every week and I just feel like yo tengo que darle las gracias a ustedes. I have to thank you for supporting me, for listening to me, porque están pendiente. You're always, checking me out and checking out the new episodes, and I'm so grateful for that. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and to go to our YouTube channel where you can find all of our episodes. You can watch it, you can hear it, you can check it out every week. Just go to the search bar and write Exactly Amara. Or si me quieres chismosear la vida and you want to know what else is happening in my life, just write Amara La Negra. But if it's chisme, don't believe it. If it's music and success, that's me. Today I want to do something different. But at the same time, if you know me and you're unless you're new, but if you know me, you know that I'm always trying to do things to empower other women, to motivate us to be better, to grow. I feel like at the end of my show, I always want you to feel like, damn, I didn't know that. I just learned this or I just figured this out or whatever the case may be. So today's topic is about female Latina entrepreneurs, okay? Como buena Latina, como buena Dominicana, como buena Afro-Latina. I don't know. I feel like my mom immigrated to this country. I saw her have so many different jobs. I saw her work so hard. And personally, I don't feel that I would be able to just come to this country and do nothing with myself or do nothing with my life. Like, I have to do something besides having a regular job, regular 9 to 5. You have to chase your dreams, chase your goals. And I also think that as Latinas, as immigrants, we're really good at figuring out ways to grow, to do business, to do something. And, I want to talk about how hard it is to run your own business, how hard it is to start. Where do ideas come from? How do you put people together? All the layers of pressure and all the layers it takes in order for you to succeed. So with that being said, in March, I have two amazing women that are going to be joining me today on Exactly Amara. And I wanted to have them because, one, I love the fact that they're two women coming together to support each other, that they have a dream together, that they're like, you know what, we're going to make this successful. And I really want them to give you the breakdown of all the amazing things that they've been able to accomplish. That's why I want you guys to check them out. This is Mala Munoz and Diosa of Locatora Radio. How are you girls doing today?
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having us. We're good. I think we're waking up still. There's a time difference. It's like 8 a.m. over here, but we're excited. We're happy.
We're honored. Thank you so much, Amara, for having us.
No, thank you. Thank you. And obviously, for those that don't know, I want you to really explain to them, what is Locatora Radio? How did it start? Where does this idea come from? And then I obviously want to know, you're Latina, but from where? ¿De qué parte son?
Yeah, so I'm a third-gen Chicana from LA. I'm Mexican-American.
Yeah, and I'm Peruana Mexicana, first gen. My dad is from Peru, from Callao, and my mom is from Chihuahua, Mexico.
Okay, ya tu ve, I love it.
Yeah, and we're podcasters. We're podcasteras. We started podcasting independently in 2016. Our first indie show is called Locatora Radio, a radiophonic novela. And we started just in the community recording like at local spaces, a community radio station called Espacio 1839 in Boyle Heights. And the show kind of started to pick up and take off, I should say, in 2016. And we started to put out episodes monthly. We started to do speaking gigs and we started to speak and podcast at different universities. And when eventually we also started to throw parties, make merch, and produce short little indie films and like video content.
Yeah, I think we were creating a business without even realizing it. We didn't really formalize as a production company until 2021, but we have been doing this since 2016. And I think it was kind of just like catching up with ourselves. We didn't set out to start a business. We didn't set out to do the things that we did, but it was kind of like we were being pushed to do them. Our community was inviting us out to speak at universities. We were being booked for lots of different gigs, to host parties, to throw parties, and all these different things. And it was kind of like just catching up with ourselves and formalizing and recognizing what we were doing. I think it took us a minute because it felt so natural and it felt so like, yeah, of course, like, yeah, we're doing this. But it took us a while to figure out and really say, like, wait, we're a business. We're entrepreneurs. That's what we're doing.
Our nature is to be hard workers, no matter where we go, we'll put little stand of something. We're going to sell something. We're going to figure out a way to succeed. We're going to figure out a way de echar para adelante. And before the pandemic, Latinos and Latinas were opening more small business than any other group in the country. And we were growing revenues faster than whites, non-Hispanic. And I love the fact that as a community, we will figure out ways to support each other when it comes to businesses. However, as great as that may sound and as great as that may be, I feel like everybody wants to be a boss. Everybody wants to be an owner. Everybody wants to have something. But let's also talk about the struggles of coming up with these ideas. You come up with with the idea and it's like, okay, I want to do this. Boom. How do I start? Where do I start? What doors do I knock on? How do I make this happen? How was that journey and that process for you guys to start your own podcast? And from there, literally branch out into having merch and to having all these great things. How did that come about?
Yeah, it definitely started as a passion project, just that a creative endeavor that we just wanted to put out for our friends and our little micro tiny Instagram followings at the time. And then over time, we kind of got this advice from people. Different folks in our community, listeners and other artists started to tell us Mala, Diosa, people want to pay you and they want to see your project grow. So we got to this point where we realized, and it was during the pandemic, we need to become an LLC. We need to really start monetizing. It was during the pandemic, actually, when we couldn't do parties and live shows and in-person workshops or travel to universities anymore. During the pandemic, we started to sell our first on-air ads. We started to really monetize the audio. And we also started to collaborate with bigger brands and companies like HBO Max and Netflix and Warner Brothers. And it was also over the course of the pandemic that we had the opportunity to be in Times Square as podcasters with Spotify's Hispanic Heritage Month campaign. And we had an LA Times feature come out written by Stephanie Mendez. So things actually during the pandemic, because we had to shift and change direction, things actually started to pick up for us in really incredible ways. And now we have our LLC, we have our small business, our production house. We launched a new independent podcast that I host called Marihuanera, a podcast for potheads. It's my cannabis comedy podcast.
I feel that for Latinos that are born and raised in the States or whatever, I feel like we might be a little bit more open-minded when it comes to that. Even a lot of parents, algunos padres, not all of them, are a little bit open-minded of you know what, I get it these days, la juventud, they're like that. It might not be that bad. They've legalized it. But, those real traditional Latino parents, to hear you talking about, oh, it's just, a pothead, how did your family, how did your parents take that? Mija, what are you doing?
That's such a great question and such a great point. And that's why I made the podcast. That's why I produce it. That's why I put it out. Because there is this very, very intense history between Latinos, and every different Latino country, Latin American country, is going to have a different relationship to cannabis. And then that means that different Latino communities, in the US, have different relationships to cannabis. My parents are not fans of being a pothead and smoking weed. They don't like it. But once I started making money through it and putting together live shows and getting press, Marihuanera, a podcast for potheads, just won a Gotham Award and had a spread in Variety.
What?
And
Yes.
they're doing audio awards now, the Gotham, right? And so, it's also an industry that's being legalized. Even this last round of elections, new states legalized recreational and or medicinal cannabis. So it's becoming legalized. It's becoming more accepted. But not every Latino story is anti-cannabis. And especially in the American Southwest and in Chicano, Mexican American, Native communities, there are families where cannabis consumption is normal. I have an episode with she's actually like an ecological water engineer. Her name is Nina Mautner, but she also identifies as a marihuanera, and her parents were weed smokers, and she's from California. And there are these Chicano families that for them, their parents smoked weed or their grandparents smoked weed. So I love hearing those stories. That's why I bring all these different guests onto the show, because everybody has a different relationship with the plant. But my goal is to reach like as many senoras as possible with the podcast. I want to create like an army of senora stoners who just embrace it for its medicinal purposes. Yeah.
Right.
So that's some of what we do. And that's a small business under our production company, right? And Diosa also runs a book club that she could talk about under our production company as well.
Yeah, like Mala mentioned earlier, the pandemic really gave us the opportunity to shift and like reinvent like what it is that we're doing. And so with that, we started to like expand what we call like our Locatora audioverse, our little world. And with that came creating a book club that we host under Patreon. And so we have like we've been doing it for over a year now, a monthly book club where we read like a writer, author of color. We focus on those stories. And so we have like 70 plus members. And so that's exciting. And so really just like going in and like finding what we like and what we're interested in and making that a part of the business as well. Because I was reading and I was posting what I was reading on social media, and people would ask me for a book club and they would want to talk about the books that they were reading. And so it goes back to the community, like pushing us and asking us to do more.
Do people really read a lot?
People really read a lot. There's like a book community on social media. There's like book talk. There's like Bookstagram.
Oye, la otra de que Bookstagram. Mira, don't hate me. I have never heard this in my life, but I'm glad to know because look, I just learned something new. I didn't know that they have Bookstagram, and I love it because now, see me, I am an audiobook type of girl, see? And it's different for everybody. Everybody has different ways of learning or things that they like. So I personally get it. As an author, I get the fact of reading, obviously super important for the children. But para mí, that my life is at 1,000, I am a fan of audiobooks, but I love to know that there also is, ¿cómo se llama? Bookstagram.
Yeah. So my book club is called Locas por Libros, and it's for the little nerds, the little Latina femme nerds that love to read. And part of it too, because we're talking about entrepreneurship, is that Latina authors don't, in the book publishing industry, they're getting deals at a lower percentage than like white authors. And so part of the model of my book club is reading new releases by Latino, Black authors, Native American authors, Asian American authors, to really like support the new releases, because part of what the industry wants to see is that people are buying it. And so if my book club is supporting a new release, we're also helping this new author. And so it's all related to what we do and really like our core values.
We talk about all the great things that our businesses are about, right? In my case, I am a woman of many traits because I also am a business owner. I have real estate. I have a transportation company. I do car rentals. I have children's book. I have baby, infant clothing lines. I have many things I do besides being an artist, besides being an influencer, a celebrity, whatever it is that people may see me as, right? But a lot of people, when they want to start a business, they're trying to figure out, how do I start? Did you guys start with investors? Did you have your own money? Did you put your own money up? How did the financial aspect of your business start?
Yeah, I love that you are asking that question because, we're talking about the hardships of being a business owner and entrepreneur. And like, I primarily, and you might relate to this, Amara, like I primarily, first and foremost, see myself as an artist. And so for artists to come in for the business side, like there was some learning curve, there was like some challenges. But when we decided to launch Locatora Productions, we actually started a crowdfund on iFund Women, and we raised $15,000 to get our production company off the ground, which meant like formalizing an LLC, launching Marihuanera, Podcast for Potheads, and all the little back-end stuff that you need when you're launching a business, doing the trademark, all these different things. And so we took the 15,000 as like seed money essentially, but it was all community funded, all community given, and use that as a launch pad for Locatora Productions. Because when you're starting to work with networks, right? They can't just pay you like to your name. They need to pay a production company. They need to pay a business, an LLC. And so we learned that early on. And then it also helps you tax wise, which like has been its own journey that maybe Mala can tell you a little bit more about, but it's hard. And for us, like we didn't have, at least in our immediate family, didn't have like business owners to tell us that you need to start with X, Y, and Z. It was just us learning as we went and having people give us advice along the way.
And I think that also is so important to be able to, really give that part of information, because I personally didn't know either about the LLCs or the legal aspect of your business. Because a lot of people start off, I have this great idea, but who informs us of the legal aspect of our business? Because all these things have to have structure. And it's crazy and it's insane to me. The Latina founders run nearly 2 million businesses across the country, but receive less than 2% of the venture capital funds, which is crazy because if you see that we work hard, we come up with these great ideas, we add to the economy, why aren't they supporting the way that they should?
They think that our community, even though there's statistics now, but they think that our community doesn't actually buy anything. But we do, like we support each other. Our dollar, I forget the day, but like our dollar circulates X amount of days in our community. And they think that they want to believe that we don't spend money, but there's statistics that show otherwise.
Diosa, I want to ask you something specifically, right? What does being a female Latina entrepreneur mean? What does it mean to you most importantly? But how do you think that society views us? When we say Latina entrepreneur.
Oh, let me think about. I'm thinking about that one. I'm processing. Latina. What does society think when they hear Latina entrepreneur? Oh, I don't know. I mean, I think like Latinas are historically like head of house, and so even in like informal ways, like Latinas are entrepreneurs. Like Latinas run the show, like in like literal ways, right? They're like the head, they're the bosses, the jefas in charge, but then they're also like running their household. And so I think like Latinas, by way of like having to take on a lot of the labor in their families, are like the ones in charge.
What about you, Mala?
I feel like people don't know like where Latinas are starting businesses and like how diverse these businesses are. Like, I don't think folks are automatically considering, Latina business owners and transportation companies, Latina business owners and production houses. I think that maybe the general public maybe thinks of Latinas and more traditional businesses, food and maybe like beauty. I don't know. Like I actually struggle. Like, what do people associate us with when it comes to like the economy? But for us too, like being a Latina business owner has meant like taking a lot of meetings and a lot of advice from other Latina business owners who have been doing it longer than us and at a much bigger scale. So we like have never assumed that we know the right way to run a business because we've never done this before. Like, this is also like podcasting, which is still a very new art form in and of itself, like across the board. And so we have not ever negotiated like a network contract without our attorney, for example. And our attorney we got through referrals from other Latina business owners and creatives. Now after 6 years of podcasting and now after our deal with iHeart, we're also working with an accountant and a business manager who was also a referral from another Latina business owner.
Let's preach and let's talk about that, okay? I'm always pro. Mommy, get your finances together. Get an accountant. On your team,
Yeah.
you should have on speed dial your accountant and an attorney at all moments, at all times, especially when you have, you're starting off your own business. I know how many times I've messed up signing the wrong contracts because I didn't understand what this term might have meant. And you don't know how that one little line can mess up your whole deal. So it is important for you to have an attorney. It is important for you to have an accountant to make sure that all your finances are in order, even when it comes to your taxes, even when it comes to bonuses, whatever the case may be. The importance of starting your own business, but making sure that your foundation is solid so that later on it doesn't get shaky is extremely important. I too have learned through experience, through really bad, situations that have occurred that I'm like, damn, I should have had an attorney. I thought that I could have done that on my own. When did you guys finally figure out, okay, me hace falta tener un equipo porque sola no podemos?
Yeah, I think that from what I've learned is that, when we advise people, like, get an attorney, get an accountant, like, people don't understand initially why it's important to make the investment in your business. Like, people see like, oh, but lawyers cost a lot of money. Oh, but an accountant costs a lot of money. But in the long run, you need these people to like be on your team because they're the ones that are going to double your money, triple your money, And so seeing it as an investment and not as like, I'm losing something, I'm actually gaining something, because their knowledge and expertise is something that I don't have. And so it was when with Mala and I in 2021 that, she can speak on, that we decided, okay, we had been working with an attorney much longer, but really when all the contract negotiations started, we like tapped our attorney.
Yeah. And it's with the attorneys, it started with, we need to trademark Locatora because we invented this word. This word does not exist in any Spanish dictionary anywhere or English dictionary. We made it up, right? We named our podcast this hybrid Spanglish word. And so we got it trademarked, and then we became an LLC. And the other thing that we needed to understand is like legal language is literally its own language. And we actually are not capable of understanding it and marking up contracts and negotiating with other people's lawyers. Like, it's actually going to destroy us if we think that we can like wade through this legalese by ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of about understanding also, like, as artists, we do things that other people cannot do, right? But then like lawyers and accountants know things that we do not know. And it's about also kind of being humble and acknowledging that, like, no, artists need help.
It's a team,
right? And the accountants too, it's like, there's a big difference between going to TurboTax and H&R Block and doing your personal accounting and then doing accounting for a business and the tax code for a business. And if you have employees or hire independent contractors, or you want to think about insurance, like, the tax code is written to screw you over, like, intentionally. Know that. It is not your friend. And so you need to employ the help of professionals if you are a small business owner to help you navigate the tax code. And I think it's about humility, right? Like, of course we can do it.
Yeah.
We can achieve anything that we put our minds to, but like sometimes you need help.
Yes. And like your boyfriend, your partner, your mom, like, if they're not lawyers, they cannot read your contract. Like, sure, maybe you want to get advice and say like, does this look good? They can say yes, but if they're not an attorney, they don't know. And so like, we've heard people say like, oh, so-and-so looked it over, so it was fine. They're really smart. If they're not a lawyer, they do not know. And it's not fair to ask them.
You said something that hit home for me, which I'm curious about. You said, your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your family, this and that. Have you guys had any encounter with any of your family members, boyfriend, girlfriends, or et cetera, that they haven't been supportive of you guys in this journey? Or were they all, always supportive of, yeah, that's a great idea what you guys are doing? Did you ever have anybody be like, you know what, that's a terrible idea, it's not going to work out? Or why are you spending your money on that or your time on that? Or, because I really want to know, and I think that this is important. A lot of people have great ideas, but then they get discouraged when they'll have somebody that they care about, right? Kind of make them feel that this is not a podcast. Like, why would you want to do that? A film, why would you want to do that? Like, that's not smart. That's not going to make any money. You're Latina. You're a woman. It's a hard industry. Look who you're competing with. When you have that type of negativity, have you guys had to encounter any of those things?
I feel like what we've done a lot of is make the thing, we make it, we put it out, and then we show our family and friends later. Like, I don't think we've ever really gone to our family with the idea, what do you guys think of this? Because we already know that they're not going to like it, or they're not going to get it, or there's going to be too many questions or doubts or concerns. Because again, podcasting is so new and so young. And we're doing things like talking about, it's a Latina focused show, and we're talking about sex, and we're talking about smoking weed, and, we're doing photo shoots in lingerie. And it's better to just do it and then, tell them about it later. And I think part of it is like, this is our job, this is our work, this is our art. Our parents don't necessarily like explain their workday to us, or like explain to us why they're doing something at work, because it's just their job. So I think like afterwards, sometimes like my mom raises her eyebrow all the time at the things that we're doing. But I think like also it's that balance, because for us, we live at home. And it's good to have the family anchor you in some ways, and to keep you like your foundation intact. Like, yes, like you're a grown woman and we're liberated and we're sexual and we smoke weed, but we also like we still have this family connection, and they still keep us sane, and they still keep us like healthy, and they still maintain that balance for us. That's how I like to think about it.
I think too, we've like intentionally created a supportive community. Like we haven't had people like put us down or tell us we can't do anything. And I think part of it is because we do it and then they see it, like Mala mentioned. Like we're not asking anyone, we're not getting advice from anyone. Sure, we'll get advice like about the business side of it, but about an actual idea, like we have each other to bounce ideas off of. And then we're like, yes, that's amazing. Okay, that sounds good, but let's take it here, or let's tweak it there. And I think being able to have that duo partnership has enabled us to grow in ways that, we didn't know possible, because when Mala and I met, we were just internet friends. And like, this has gone really strong and really well for 6 years, but it had the potential to not be as strong, because we were essentially like strangers. We knew each other off Instagram, and we took a leap of faith in each other. Don't recommend doing that with just anybody, but for us it worked.
True.
And we have a solid foundation, and so we didn't formalize. And like I said, until 2021, like that could have gone really wrong and like really bad. So don't recommend. But in our circumstance and our situation, like we had like a trust with each other that allowed us to grow. We didn't need to be formalized, but it helps.
What exactly do you want people to view this as? Yes, you guys are, you do podcasts, you do films, you do many other things, which I think is great, because you don't just stick yourself in a box of this is the only thing that we do. We do this, and we're willing to expand into many other different things, right? But when they hear that name, what do you want people to see? What do you want people to remember? How do you want people to remember you guys as CEO and founders of this concept and this idea?
Yeah, I think for us, we are a very long running, like indie Latinx podcast, and we want Locatora Radio to serve as an audio archive so that people can go through our many seasons and hundreds of episodes eventually and get a sense of like what the creative landscape looked like, especially for Latinas, during this period of time. We'll interview somebody who's just starting out in their career. One of our favorite examples is Vanessa Romo. And when we first interviewed Vanessa Romo, she had just been cast on Nuestra Belleza Latina. Now, like 5 years later, Vanessa Romo has been on the cover of Vogue Mexico. She has walked Savage Fenty twice. She's a Wilhelmina model, and she's fucking killing it, right? And she's a local Whittier girl. And that's one of our favorite like examples, right? And we interviewed her when she was just starting, and she's not the only example, right? So we would love for folks to be able to look at our podcast as a time capsule of like Latinx creativity.
What started as a podcast expanded into a production company. And so and I think by way of that is because we're pushing like what podcasters could do, or like what we thought podcasters could do. It wasn't just the audio. It was, oh, we're going to make thematic season posters for each season. And then it moved on and evolved into, okay, we're going to make the graphics and posters, and we're also going to make short skits and little short videos to announce our new season. And so really expanding and pushing the creativity and any limits that are set on from the industry, right? Podcasters, typically don't do XYZ, but we can do that. It's fine. Let's do it anyway. And so really trying to be limitless is what I want people to think of Locatora Radio and Locatora Productions.
I always like to, at the end of the show, leave my listeners with something to take home, something to, leave motivated with. Okay, so I want to hear from both of you guys, from Mala and Diosa. If you had to give any words of encouragement, any advice, any pointers to anybody that wants to start their own production company, their own podcast, their own whatever, any Latina entrepreneur or Latino as well, because we show love to the men aquí también. What would be some advice? Because, for example, I'm gonna give some to my people. I'll say this much. 1, be consistent as hell. Be consistent. If you say you want to do this, you do that every day till you get there. Be persistent. Every day, continue to knock on those doors till a door opens, because it's all about that one opportunity. It's all about timing. It may have not been there today, but it will definitely show up tomorrow if you keep knocking on the same door or different doors. Don't take no for an answer, because just because one person says no, who cares? There's like 7 billion human beings on this planet. Somebody's going to say yes. You have to start off somewhere. It doesn't matter how slow or how low or how many listeners or how many buyers or how many sales you're making. You are doing something because you're moving forward towards the right direction. And that's just me giving you a couple of pointers from my own personal experience. That's just me. And I can go through a long ass list, but I'm going to let you, Mala, what would be some pointers, some advice that you can give to some of the listeners that are inspired by your story and want to be able to follow your footsteps?
Yeah. So I think I have 2, and they're like based off of advice from 2 of our favorite creatives. So Issa Rae has this quote about working horizontally that we always reference and talk about. Don't be so worried about working with the top studio and the top network and the top director when you're first getting started, and work with your peers who are just like you in your community, who understand where you're coming from and who are also trying to build their portfolios. Like, work with your friends and your community members and like build something from the ground up. And then my second piece of advice, which is coming from Beyonce. So Beyonce like has this quote from Homecoming on Netflix where she talks about how people don't want to rehearse because they're afraid to look silly. They're afraid to like look like they don't know what they're doing. Like, you cannot be afraid to look silly. You cannot be afraid to fail. You cannot be afraid to bomb. You have to be okay with looking ridiculous and even looking bad at something when you're first starting out. That's like how anybody starts. And that's how you get good. Our podcast audio has not been top notch all these years. We've been indie, and that's okay. We still put out episodes. And now we're at iHeart with the My Cultura network. So I agree, Amara, just keep going. Even if it's not perfect, be consistent, keep putting it out.
I think like if you want to start a podcast, like don't let anybody tell you there's too many podcasts. You hear that it's oversaturated, and my response to that is like, nobody says that there's too many books, there's too many, movies or TV shows. But because we can really do it ourselves, and podcasting has become democratized, in a sense, like anyone can do it. I feel like there's some type of elitist mindset there where it's like, oh, there's too many. But just because there's too many doesn't mean that you don't have to start a podcast, right? No one is going to do it like you. You can bring your own spin to something. You can make something unique. You can carve out your own space, your own community, and do it.
Well, with that being said, ladies, de verdad que sí, it has been an honor and a pleasure to have you guys on Exactly Amara. I love the fact that as women, we're supporting each other. As Latinas, we're supporting each other. We're all part of the same family, My Cultura Podcast Network. Thank you guys so much for believing in us, for trusting in us, for giving a platform for women like us that are, making moves, making changes. We're being innovative. We're being organically, unapologetically us. And we're grateful that there are platforms like this that, allow us to let our voices be heard. We need more podcasts. We need more shows, more filming companies. We need more of this, more women empowerment. Como mujeres también, let's show love to each other también. If you ever see the girls out there, you know what I'm saying, their podcasts, you better go out and support and listen and check them out. And that's why I want you guys to let us know, where can we follow you? Where can we support you? Where can we show you love? When is your podcast out? Or how can we support you more?
So you can tune in to Locatora Radio weekly. We are with the My Cultura network, with iHeart. You can listen to us on all the usual places that you listen to your podcasts. We're out Wednesdays. And you can also follow us on Instagram. We're at Locatora_radio. And that's the same across all socials. You can visit us at locatoraradio.com and Patreon as well.
Well, there you go. With that being said, ladies, thank you so much for joining me today. I am so grateful to have you. Ha sido un placer, un honor para mí tenerlos ustedes en mi programa el día de hoy. So with that being said, thank you for all the love and support, guys. You already know this is Exactly Amara. And don't forget to follow me on all our social media platforms at Exactly Amara. And mine's, of course, Amara La Negra, ALN, Amara La Negra, ALN. It's your girl, Amara La Negra. See you next time. This has been a production of iHeart's My Cultura Podcast Network. For more podcasts from iHeart, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.